So this is this is one of a number. This will be the last tour we'll do this year, and so this space here is owned by the council. So we can only do permission. We can only do tours here with our permission. So we do a general tour. We did one yesterday, which was from last weekend, delayed from last weekend because of Storm Dara. And then this is a special one, an even more specialer one. This is the East Belfast themed tour, but I'll put in a few other non-East Belfast ones as well, which Justin then can edit out. So those who are here, so these are generally guides, etc. here, and researchers. Jackie here is she's the expert in this graveyard, but well, that's what I'm telling you, because I'm hoping you're going to buy me a latte. So Jackie's the expert. So she did all the initial hard work for us before Mark and I kind of got the easy bit. So do either of you think you've got relations in here? No?
Just want to see the graves.
Just want to see the headstones. Okay, cool. So for those who have been here before, and I think of Kathy in particular, I'm going to bleed your nose here because the normal tour goes down this way, but this tour goes anti-clockwise. Is everything okay with that? I only made this decision yesterday, and so anyway, just sorry. Radical, yes. This is a Radicals tour. So just by way of introduction, this place here, this cemetery opened in 1855, and then and there were big plans for the cemetery. This was the original. This is the original plan. The only thing that really still exists to this day are the gates which you came through a while ago there. But you can see back in 1855, this area here was very, very rural, and it's all changed now. So it never came to pass. There was to be a chapel of rest, etc. here, and you can see all these big, fine, tall obelisks. That again didn't come to pass, because what happened 14 years after the cemetery opened was that, and you can see it's called Belfast Cemetery Malone originally. What happened 14 years later was that the city cemetery and Milltown opened, so it meant then that that became much more popular than this. The cemetery itself opened, it was essentially Presbyterian, a couple of Presbyterian ministers, both of whom are buried here. So if you look down directly, the headstone you can see the furthest away there, that's the final resting place of the Reverend Joseph McKenzie. He was for 47 years the minister of Malone Presbyterian Church. In other words, the spire over there that you can see. And him and Reverend Henry Cook, they thought that they were, a Presbyterian minister was denied the use of the established church ground, in other words, the Church of Ireland. So they thought, well, we'll see about that. So the Malone Presbyterian owned this land. So then they decided in 1855 to open the cemetery here for folks from their flock. But it's not exclusively from their flock. You can see from this, these are the original rules and regulations prior to opening in 1855. Of course, there's 12 of them, 12 commandments, and then the 10th one, and thanks to Mark for printing these out. By the way, I got them soaked, so I might need a few reprints. It says, number 10 says, ministers and clergymen of the various religious denominations shall be at liberty to officiate at the graves of persons of their own communion according to the forms and ceremonies of their respective churches or bodies. So it's primarily Presbyterian, but not exclusively. So there's, for example, there's at least 4 Methodist ministers buried in here. So that's just by way of introduction. So say we'll call it there's 20 stops, official stops, all with the East Belfast theme. We have done other tours in here, theme tours. Well, one other tour, no, 2 other tours. We did a tour with a local actor, a guy called Stephen Beggs, and he played 12 people buried here in character, which you would love that, and it means you don't have to listen to me as well, which is always an added bonus. And then the other theme tour that we did in here was a woman-only tour, so it was open to all, but it focused on 20 women buried here. So this is, I suppose, the third theme tour, the East Belfast themed. And it's because I'm from East Belfast, so it's purely selfish, and it is Christmas, so I have to indulge myself. So say there's 20 of them, so without further ado, then we'll head this direction. You all right? This is here, Justin. What? Well, this area, before we did the first tour here about a year ago, then we were just doing the recce, and a huge tree here had fallen that way. It lifted the path here, so that's why that pathway is new where Mark and Jackie are standing. So thankfully it didn't take out many graves, but and last weekend was there was a storm, so we've seen some damage since then as well in here. So don't forget a lot of the headstones have been here for literally hundreds of years, so it doesn't take much to disturb them. So this is the first stop. It's a very, very fine and unusual headstone, and you can see here initials to commemorate the family. So it's the Scott and the Calder family, and amongst the transcription which was done a number of years ago by a great guy called Richard Clark, RCJ Clark, and known as Graveyard Dick, but nobody ever told him that to his face. They weren't brave enough. He retired professor, medical doctor from working at the Royal. So he did a lot of research on this graveyard and documented a lot of the headstones, as has Jackie. So a lot of the information that you can't see, I get from Jackie's information or from Richard Clark's books. So it says here, in memory of John Calder, born in Edinburgh, 25th January 1819, and died at Knock, in other words, East Belfast, 12th January 1890. And then also it says here, sacred in the memory of Douglas John Calder of Belfast, Ireland, who died 17th May 1882, aged 19 years. Died after a long and painful accident while playing football. So that's what it used to say on that headstone. So that'll just prove, like Mark thinks, that playing football is bad for you anyway. But also, you concur. Also commemorated here then are another couple of people from East Belfast. John Calder, who was 71 when he died, 12th January 1890 at Ballyclocken in Knock. So Ballyclocken still exists in East Belfast as a townland. And then also Mary Ann Rebecca Calder, who was 72 when she died, 15th March in 1904 at Brandon Towers in Strandtown. The Brandon Towers is now away, but the name still exists in East Belfast. It's quite close to the Oval, near Consbrook Avenue, with Brandon Terrace there. So I think it was in that kind of area off Consbrook Avenue, near the Oval. In terms of famous people from East Belfast, Dan Gordon from Give 'Em a Headpiece, Red Hand Luke, etc. He's from Brandon Terrace. So Brandon was in that area, Brandon Towers. So it's quite common in East Belfast and in all parts of Belfast, right, that the houses might have gone, but the name still exists in the street names. That's the first one, and I think this is a combination of the three names to have this unusual crest here. So.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Yeah, are they easy ones?
I don't know. Calder as in Calder Fountain?
Yes, same spelling. So Calder. So
Related?
possibly, I don't, but possibly not. I don't really know. So
And other one is, what was the footballing accident? Do you know?
I don't. That's all I know. But it's just died after a long and painful accident. Probably a head injury. But
What year?
1882. But you can see there as well, Hawick. That's pronounced Hawick, I think. It's Hawick, NB. That's New Brunswick. So that would be, in other words, that's over in Canada. That'd be right, Mark, wouldn't it? MB is New Brunswick. Yeah.
Just like there's John Henry Montgomery down in Frasbush he's remembered in Frasbush, he died in New Brunswick.
Yeah.
Except in St. John's rather than
Hawick.
Hawick.
Hawick is.
Would he be related to the Francis Anderson Calder?
That's what Emma's just asked. So.
You're ahead of the game.
See, that was the worst question. It's not a super common name.
It's not,
so
but we think that Calder himself is. Sorry, this is as an aside, but just if you're in McHugh's for research purposes, if you're in McHugh's, look over towards Custom House Square, and then on the right, there's toilets there, but there's also a horse fountain. So that's the Calder fountain, not far from the Big Fish. So Em's asking, are they related? We think Calder, Mark, is buried in Shankill graveyard, but
Calder of the Calder fountain.
yes, but we don't think there's a headstone, but we could be wrong. So this is the second one. This is the Murray grave. This is one of the headstones I've cleared away because it was very kind of overgrown, but I was kind of looking for it, so I wanted to find it. The two people who are buried here both died sadly in 1862. James Murray, he was a doctor, and you can see there at the top of the headstone, MD and then F.R.C.S.D. He died 2nd February 1862, aged 62. And then sadly, the same year, on the 1st of August, aged only 25, his daughter Jane Murray died. And they're both living at the dispensary house at Ballymacarrett. So that suggests with his that he was a pharmacist. Dr. Murray was a pharmacist. And dispensary house at Ballymacarrett is well gone now, but it's if you look up the records, it's there for both the Murray. There's no mention of a wife there, so it's a bit unusual either on the headstone or in the subsequent records. But you can also see that there used to be a column on top of that, which is sadly fallen. I think it might have fallen backwards between those two headstones, so it's still in there under the foliage. So again, two guys from East Belfast. The thing about East Belfast is that there's only one headstone out of the 20 that we'll call that. That it actually it screams that it tells you exactly. It mentions East Belfast. All of the other ones are a bit more subtle and have to be looked for a bit harder. So that's an example of that. It's two guys from East Belfast, but at the same time, you wouldn't know looking at it at first. So again, there would have been a big column on top of this one. And you can see this garland here, but it's in memory of Mary Jane Moore, wife of C.T. Osborne, merchant in Belfast. And this is his first wife, and she died aged only 21. Possibly in childbirth. But I'm going to talk about his second wife, who is Isabella here. And she was only aged 34 when she died at Ballymacarrett at Sydenham. Ballymacarrett is kind of in East Belfast, off the circular road. It's still remembered as a townland. And she was the second wife of Christy T. Osborne, who was a tea merchant. And she was the daughter of the late James Agnew, and she died at Ivy Villas at Sydenham. So probably, I know I said it was in the circular road, but Ballymacarrett obviously went across then onto the other side of the Hollywood Road. And also their son, mentioned here, Francis Herbert at the bottom. He died 7th December 1874, aged only 18 months at Lower Sydenham in Belfast. So possibly the same address as Ivy Villas. So that's again, you just see references to Belfast there, but there was an East Belfast connection. Just as we're passing by, just as the way of an aside, you can see this very fine headstone here. It's the May family, and the Mays would be related to the Mays of May Street in Belfast. And you can see quite a lot of ornate carving on the column, and as well as there's the flag, a sword, a scabbard, etc. So, and then on the side wreaths, then there are listed 4 battles from the Crimean War, including Sebastopol. So there's the Sebastopol Street. So that's in Belfast. So those are locations where May would have fought during the Crimean War. You which?
It's the coolest assemblage here.
I think so, yeah. Again, just as an aside, you might see there's a little poppy cross there, as there are on a number of the headstones around here in this part of in this cemetery, and that's because the lady there, Margaret Byers Watt, she passed away in April, 16th of April 1941, as a result of the German air raids. So, but she was living in Bangor at that stage. So people think that of the almost 1,000 civilians who were killed during the German air raids in 1941, they were all in Belfast. And whilst the majority of them were in Belfast, there were others who perished up in Derry, up in Newtownards, or in this case of Margaret Byers Watt in Bangor. So, just as an aside as well, this guy here, Batt, William Batt, was an architect, and he's you might recognise a few of his gigs as such. One of Batt's, this is Mark's favourite piece of Batt work as such, nothing to do with Lidl or Aldi. This is the beautiful entrance gate to the Botanic Gardens up off Stranmillis, now demolished. But it was this man here, Batt, who wrote it, who designed it. He also designed this, the Clifton Street Orange Hall, which is still there. But look at this photograph. There's no King Billy on the top. So there wasn't. I thought that was original, but it's not. Was it? If only there was somebody here to help me with my dates. So, and then this is Batt's work that you might recognise as the National Bar. So but again, that's one of his jobs. So, round to the next one for East Belfast Connection. Just on the left. So this fine headstone here, you can see at the top it says the family burying place of John Robb Lisnabreeny House. This is Lisnabreeny House in East Belfast, just about. Well, some say it was South Belfast. It's kind of, pardon? Southeast, yes.
Southeast.
On the border. But this is where the Robbs lived. The Robbs owned a big department store. And this is the department store. It's Castle Place. It's now away. It's essentially where Donegal Arcade is now. And you can see it was a very, very fine building. Damaged during the Blitz and then eventually demolished in the early 1970s. But the Robbs owned that very successful department store, known for its appropriately for its folks of a certain generation. We could remember the Santa there. The Santa was very good apparently, so I was more a co-op man, but to get divvy points. But this Lisnabreeny House still exists, and it is the music department in Lagan College, Northern Ireland's first integrated college. So it still exists to this day. So they're saying, if they're saying Lisnabreeny House there, they're putting the name of their house on their final resting place. They're essentially saying, I might be dead, but when I was alive, I was richer than you. So it's snobbery from beyond the grave. So that's the Robbs. Just round the corner here and to the left for the next one. So this is very unusual wording in this one, and so I have to get down close to see it. It says, to Maggie, the devoted wife of Edward Heaney, who entered the fatherland March 9th, 1901, aged 31. And there's a little verse after it as well. "'Tis no parting, though thy bark hath," bark as in B-A-R-Q-U-E, as in a boat, "hath earlier gained the port of rest. Its silver wake my course shall mark, and draw me towards a shining west." So again, you wouldn't know there's any connection to East Belfast in this, but buried here but not commemorated in the headstone is John Alexander Bill. He was only 4 months old when he died on the 13th of November 1883 at 3 Upper Newtownards Road, in other words just up beyond Hollywood Arches. And his father was a missionary, and so the person who witnesses his death, young John Bill's death, was an uncle also called John. And also Samuel Alexander Bill, he was a bachelor, and he was a missionary, and he lived at that house, and he had married Grace Kerr, who was residing at 55 Castlereagh Street, again in East Belfast, and she was a daughter of Charles Kerr. And then commemorated here, as it says, is Maggie. So she's recorded as Margaret, known as Maggie. Died 5th March 1901, aged 31, at Thornley in Bloomfield. So Thornley, it doesn't give a street name, it just says Thornley in Bloomfield. So it suggests perhaps a big house in the Bloomfield area. And she was the wife of Edward Heaney, who was a missionary at Ibu, Q-U-A, and a new word, I-B-O-E, somewhere in Africa, I believe. Pardon? Benin. So yes, I like to throw in a question or two just to keep check marks, not away taking photographs. But interestingly, he doesn't seem to be buried here. So unless after his wife died, age only 31, then he maybe went overseas or died overseas and is buried over there. So again, the next one's over this direction, please. So just on the corner here, this very fine headstone has members of the Edwards and Wilson family, and there's a couple all mentioned with the East Belfast connection down here. Charles Patton Edwards, he was aged only 4 weeks when he died on the 5th of August 1800 at Belmont in Strandtown, and he was buried on the 16th of August. And then at the bottom here then we have Alfred Edwards, aged 71, and he died 7th March 1921 at the Laurels at Belmont. So I think that the Laurels is off Sydenham Avenue in East Belfast. So in other words, off the kind of upper Hollywood Road. So again, you wouldn't guess that from the headstone, but there's at least 2 folks who lived over in East Belfast who are buried there. Next one's down here. So I don't know if you're either of you are football fans. You have to say this. This one here behind the big tree, that's a guy called John Calder, and he introduced Association Football to Ireland. Formed the first football team in Ireland, Cliftonville. There's a blue plaque to him there. So. This is the next one. This is a very fine paper headstone. There's at least 5 columns here. I'm going to talk about the middle column though, Thomas and Margaret Ann Piper at first. So Thomas was aged 56 when he died on the 4th May at Clifton, Clifton, Strandtown. He was a married provision merchant. Again, I presume that's up off the Belmont Road, kind of heading over towards the Circular Road. And his wife, Margaret Ann, she was over in North Belfast in Glandore Avenue, and she died in 1927. But she was still recorded as the widow of Thomas Piper of Clifton in Strandtown, even though she died 18 years after him. And also here, just this solitary inscription here just commemorates William Piper. William Piper was the founder of the Mercantile College, and he died on the 8th of January 1920 at Clonoe at King's Road. So again, if you have a house name without a number, it implies it's a big house. And let's face it, there's not too many small houses in the King's Road. So he lived at Clonoe. He was 75 at the time of his death, when he was recorded as a school teacher. But as I mentioned, he had founded the Mercantile College, and the administration of his estate was granted in 1922 Isabella Ferner Piper, his widow, and he had effects of £228. 5 shillings and no D, so it's a bit strange to put no D in there. So that's the very fine Piper. There's also a connection to football, the Pipers, but I'll not bore you with it. So the next one then is over here.
Are they connected? You know that fruit shop on Balmoral Road's called Pipers?
Is it not PI though?
No, I thought it was PY.
Is it?
I think so, yeah. I think it's PY. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, right.
And then, because you said he was a grocery thing.
Oh, yes, a provisions merchant, yeah.
No, I think they're PY.
Oh, you could be right, actually, yeah. So
I was wondering, is there
a connection, yeah.
Well,
Well, next time you're in getting your pomegranates, then you can ask, yeah. So just in here this way, Justin.
You did some clear in here.
Well, it was me, yeah. So behind me here is I think the most enjoyable grave from the tour with the actor. This is the final resting place of Georgina Mutri Kyle, and she was a painter, a remarkable painter. But the most remarkable thing about her is and Stephen plays her solicitor at the time of her death, reading out the will. She, amongst the things that she said, that when she was buried, that she wanted a vital organ removed before she was buried. She's obviously fear of being buried alive. So Stephen plays the actor, the Kyle family solicitor, and he does it. It's very, very good. He pretends that there's office staff fainting, etc. At this horrible kind of suggestion that they have to have their heart removed before she's buried. So that's behind us. But this one here, this is the headstone that I think is the only one that kind of says about East Belfast, and you can see it's quite hidden as well. This to the memory of Nathaniel Wood of Wandsworth, Strandtown. So that's his home address. And then 18 Donegal Street, Belfast, which would be his work address. So I'm not too sure what line of work he was in. But again, it are kind of 2 days reses to have his his residential address, and then his work address implies that he was moneyed. Nathaniel he died on the 11th of July 1879, and also commemorated on the headstone and buried here is Frederick William Wood. He was only 21 when he died at Wandsworth at Strandtown, and then died on the 16th of June 1888, aged only 32, of Stuart Wesley Wood at Wandsworth Cottage in Strandtown. And then finally Lucy Wood, who was 70 when she died, 14th of March 1928, and she was living at Evelyn Lodge in Strandtown. She was a spinster. So again, there's names on either side here as well. So, but again, this is the only time that I think that East Belfast, an address in East Belfast, is mentioned on a headstone. Mark is now looking up what 18 Donegal.
How did you know that? In 1877.
Just as we're gathering here, it's nothing to do with East Belfast, but a clear disc grave. But you can see at the top, it looks like a fireman's helmet, doesn't it? So I think that's been his profession, the Alworthy. You can see SI and RIC. He was in the RIC, but so it's not a fireman's helmet, it's a policeman's helmet. See it at the very top? It's cool.
Underneath, you know?
Dono Confido. I don't know what that means.
Mark, look up in the lap. Give a list of things to look up.
On his app, yeah. Any luck?
1877. It was 18 Donegal Street. It was Murphy and Orr.
Donegal Place, was it? Sorry.
Was it Donegal Place?
Yes.
Okay,
Will I just double check that? But yeah, Donegal Place. Sorry, Mark. It's maybe a number of properties in Donegal Place.
There might be offices upstairs as well.
Yeah. So this is the Shaw plot. And you can see it's been a very fine headstone, but it's actually fallen backwards over the years. And again, it's a person puts, James Shaw has put their address on the headstone, Hampton House at Malone, which implies quite close to here. But also buried here is Robert John Getty Shaw. He was only 25 when he died on the 31st of May 1884 at Bloomfield Lodge. So again in East Belfast. So maybe the family lived both in South Belfast, also in East Belfast. Though his will, he formerly lived at John Getty Shaw, formerly lived at 218 Newtownards Road, Ballymacarrett, and then late of Bloomfield Lodge, Ballyhackamore. That suggests maybe he went into some kind of a care facility before he died. But he actually died on the 31st of May 1884 at Downpatrick Lunatic Asylum. His death was certified by his sister Elizabeth Getty Moorhead of Bloomfield Lodge, and she was the wife of George Moorhead, a manufacturer. So again, you wouldn't get a sense of East Belfast from that, but there is a connection to East Belfast. Oh, sorry.
1877 and 1880. It was Nathaniel Wood, silk mercer and milliner.
Right, excellent.
Stored at the Imperial Hotel.
Just for you guys, the headstone has fallen on to this one. This is the RoR Hannah, and he was a controversial minister, Presbyterian minister. And he was in charge of the biggest Presbyterian church in the world at the time, which was up at St Enoch's, which is up near Carlisle Circus, opposite. Do you know Carlisle Circus, with the big church there, where the Van Gogh and Monet exhibition was? Opposite that used to be the biggest Presbyterian church in the world, St Enoch's. It sat 2,000. RoR Hannah was the was the minister there, quite a controversial man. He used to give speeches down at the customs house, and then followed by riots quite often because of what he was saying. So then in 1970, after his death, in 1970 by 1970 there was a statue in the middle of Carlisle Circus, and it was blown up by the IRA because he was quite a controversial preacher. So I used to say to people that we don't know where that is anymore, but then somebody said, well, you've never been down at the council headquarters at Duncrew, or the council warehouses in Duncrew Street, because it's lying there still. So all these years later.
That's something like that cost.
It's hard to know, isn't it?
Thousands or?
Oh, it would be tens of thousands, I would have thought. But actually, the obelisk itself looks newer than the base, doesn't it? It's slightly different stone, so it's maybe aged a bit better. But yeah, it's kind of subtle and understated, isn't it? So there's a famous architect's practice called Young and McKenzie. Young is buried there. McKenzie is the son of the owner of one of the guys who started the cemetery, the minister. Young and McKenzie would have designed a lot of the beautiful buildings in Belfast. So McKenzie's down there, and then Young's here.
So that twin grave caught that lady's eye. Why did it catch her eye?
It's just a pretty picture.
Well,
Let me see what's on it. I haven't even read it.
would you hear the story about that
Oh,
one?
I'm interested.
So yes, it's the final resting place of Lizzie Lees. This one here, yeah.
Yes.
So it's actually our anniversary. Is it today, 16th? Today's tomorrow then, sorry. So buried here then is Lizzie Lees, known as Elizabeth, known as Lizzie, and she's commemorated as the beloved wife of the late Sub-Lieutenant Robert Houston Lees, RNR, Royal Naval Reserve, and the only daughter of James and the late Annie Getty. And she died 16th December 1915, aged only 30 years. What happened was that she had just got married to Robert Houston Lees, who was serving overseas, over in England, sorry. And the two of them were very devoted to each other, but just before he was due to leave to return to England, neighbours reported hearing 2 gunshots in their accommodation, which is up near Carlisle Circus. And he had shot his wife, then his new wife, and then turned to gun himself. So he was buried then a number of days later in Coleraine, and there was only 3 mourners at his funeral. Then his 3 brothers, and then Lizzie was laid to rest then here just after the middle of December 1915. There was a big turnout at her service, and we do have a photograph of her, of the 2 of them, but I keep on forgetting to bring it with me, even though Jackie kindly printed out.
It's actually buried over it.
Yes, and then Jackie, through her excellent research, has discovered that actually she actually is perhaps buried, or she is buried on the other side of the path. So she's commemorated here, but is actually buried on this side of the path. So it just goes to show that behind every headstone there's an interesting story, but they don't get much sadder, I'm afraid, than that story. So especially if you can look at the photograph, Jackie, I'll send it to you, because no mission to me finding it. But it's quite disturbing to see the 2 of them kind of, portrayed smiling, and then you think what happened to them not long afterwards. So this mentions Derry Volgie, which Derry Volgie is quite close to here, but you can see it's a different spelling, Derry Volgie, here and here at the top. But there's an East Belfast connection here, because on the left, it's not the first burial, because the first burial was here, 1862, and you can see 1862 is on the top of the headstone as well, below the urn. But on the left-hand side then is Maria Gregg, wife of the above, the above being James Cranston Gregg. And she died 1882, aged 81 at Ballymacarrett, Strandtown. She was the widow of a builder. But also if you look on this side then, their son Thomas, who died in the Red Sea, 25th September 1868, in the 30th year of his age. So again, an East Belfast connection, and then a reference to the Red Sea. And bizarrely, the next grave headstone we're going to call that also mentions a fatality on the Red Sea as well. So again, this is another headstone that I tidied up, and you can see here that it's very delicate, and there used to be other bits on top of it. But what I actually like here is the 18 and the 77 on either side. But you can see here the Robert Smith, not the lead singer of The Cure. He died 25th May 1879, aged 62 years. And he died at Pottinger Terrace. So I think Pottinger Terrace is on the Mount Pottinger Road as you go out of town on the left. But you can see there's a number of interesting sons here. And amongst them is Hugh McLaren Smith, BA, Indian Civil Service, who died July 31st, 1867. So he's here, but also then here, another son, William McLaren Smith, MA, Professor of Mathematics, Presidency College, Calcutta, who died in the Red Sea on his passage home November 12th, 1873, aged 31 years. So again, connection to East Belfast. And on his headstone, because at the bottom, another connection. At the bottom then, Elizabeth Smith, his beloved daughter, who died 5th April, 1885, aged 58, at 2A The Mount. So the Mount is still there at the bottom of the junction of Castlereagh Street and the Albert Bridge Road. And it was very much a sought after area, maybe not so much these days, but letters of administration, the personal estate of Elizabeth Smith, late of Mount Pottinger, Ballymacarrett, who died 1885, were granted at Belfast to Mary Ann McCutcheon of Downpatrick, who was her sister. So that's the very fine Smith grave. Yeah, well, it implies that I don't know what that means. Did he get off? He was on his way and he got off and then drowned in the sea, or?
On the way up the Suez Canal.
Do you reckon that's what it was?
Yes, you have to go through the Red Sea to get to the Suez Canal.
Right.
Do you? I think you do.
Didn't Perry? He died after coming up the Panama Canal, wasn't it? So again, coincidentally, I just tidied up this grave. I took this big tree, it's behind there, took it down. But there's a number of references to East Belfast, again, which you wouldn't get from just looking at the headstone. So it's the Campbell and Anderson headstone. Amongst those buried here, Alexander Finlay Campbell, who died 1877, aged 4 months at 8 Castlereagh Avenue, Mount Pottinger. And then William Campbell, who died aged only 6.5 on the 3rd of May 1881 at 56 Castlereagh Street. Also down at 56 Castlereagh Street was Fanny Campbell. She died aged 11 on the 11th of July 1882. And then but the first name here is Alexander McAllister Campbell. He died 27th February 1918, aged 77. And he was laid of Arlington, Martini Avenue at Bloomfield, in other words, running between the Beersbridge Road and the North Road. And he's described as a manager, and probate was granted to his brother who lived nearby in East Belfast in Cypress Park at Bloomfield. It was so the proceeds went to Robert Dunlop. So that's again, you wouldn't guess the multiple references to East Belfast in the headstone, but there's at least four family members who lived in East Belfast buried there. So we're going to go cross country here just a little bit. So this headstone here, James McNaught of Edinburgh. But again, there's connections to East Belfast. The second burial in here is Agnes McNaught, and she died 31st October 1886, aged 72, at 19 Paxton Street, Mount Pottinger. And Paxton Street runs from the Templeton Avenue through to Castlereagh Street. It's still there. Also, James McNaught. He died 11th February 1921, aged 75, at 85 Bloomfield Avenue. And he was late foreman mechanic at the Belfast Rope Works. The Belfast Rope Works nearby, where Connswater Shopping Centre is now. So that was quite a big gig to get to be the foreman mechanic there, because the rope works at the time was the biggest rope works in the world. You might say, well, so what? But at the same time, rope was very important back in those days. It was needed for the shipyard, and it was used needed for ordinary things like sash cord windows in your windows, fishing nets, etc. So to have the biggest rope works in the world and to be the foreman mechanic there, as James McNaught was quite a thing. So he's commemorated down here at the base of the headstone. Next one's over here. So there's a couple of Osborne plaques, headstones here, but I think that the one I'm going to talk about is this one. It's very, very weathered, and I think it sits beside this easier to read Osborne one. But I think it says at the top of it, erected by William John Osborne of New York. And amongst those commemorated here is Henry Nichol McCormack. He was 18 months when he died on the 17th of August 1867 at Hamilton Place in Ballymacarrett. And then also Henry Nichol, who died aged 8 months on the 1st October 1868 at Lagan Village. Lagan Village is an area essentially opposite the entrance to the Ormeau Park. And then William, aged 26, died at Woodstock Road and buried on the 10th of August 1889. And another William who died at 19th of April 1899, aged 66, at 253 Sunridge Terrace, Mount Pottinger Road. And William was an alderman, in other words a councillor, born at Bridge End in Ballymacarrett in 1833. So again, 4 references to East Belfast from this headstone, but again, you can't read it, sadly. So next one's over this direction. Just be careful, please. So commemorated in this very fine headstone is another person from East Belfast. Rebecca McCone, and she was aged 20, only 20 when she died at 58 Mount Pottinger on the 7th of October 1869. So there's so many examples of child mortality in this cemetery, but also it's quite easy to see the engraving here. In affectionate remembrance of a son, in other words, a brother of Rebecca, who was lost with all on board the steamer City of Glasgow in 1854, aged only 18 years. The City of Glasgow steamship was built on the Clyde in 1850 and was the property of Richardson Brothers. It ran between the port of Liverpool and Philadelphia. She left on the 1st of March 1854 with a total of 480 persons on board. It was reported that there were many icebergs on the route, many more icebergs on the route than previously, and the ship was never seen again. So again, 480 people who perished went down with the City of Glasgow, and including the likes of Edward, who's commemorated here. So they probably got none of the 480 would have a known grave, but be commemorated on headstones around the UK, including here in Balmoral. So again, I don't know the address, but it could have been, again, an East Belfast connection if his sister was living at Mount Pottinger when she died in 1869. So the headstone behind then, this is to be the next stop, and then Storm Dara claimed it, but Jackie and I are pretty sure that this is the headstone that we were looking for, and this is it before it fell. I said it only fell last weekend. Don't need to show you. So that's the headstone there of the Clotworthy and the Byers family, and so amongst those buried here is John, who died 15th June 1865, aged 5 years and 11 months. He died at Short Strand at Ballymacarrett. Sarah Jane, she was born 1867 at Woodstock Road at Ballymacarrett. Samuel was her father was a merchant, and Mary Byers, and she died aged only 1 year and 2 months at 59 Woodstock Road. She was buried on the 21st of February 1868. So also Samuel, and he was born on the 15th of December 1873. He died at 59 Woodstock Road again, aged 4. And then he died at Mount Street, in other words, close to Woodstock Road. And then James Alexander Clotworthy, who died aged only 3 months, on the 11th of April 1895 at 62 Miladies Road. So again, all 5 of those addresses are in East Belfast. So that's the very fine and sadly fallen Clotworthy plot that used to look like that. So.
Are you able to pick them up?
Yes, so sadly the answer to your question of 3 hours ago is that it'll probably lie like that forever. So. So just watch it. On that note, just watch yourself as we make our way back to the main path here. So this is Henry Cook, who's the one of the co-founders of the cemetery, along with Reverend John McKenzie, or Joseph McKenzie, sorry. And so he's there's the black man outside Inst is in his memory. So he was another controversial Presbyterian minister and ex-moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Ireland. So we're up this direction. So this headstone here, it's kind of sinking to the right, but it's the Murray family headstone. And around here it says commemorates Margaret and Minnie, who both died October 1895. Margaret died on the 8th of October 1885, aged 80. And Mary Eliza died on the 23rd of October. In other words, not 15 days later, just over 2 weeks later, aged 48. And they were both living at 32 Belmont Avenue off the Belmont Road, not far from Earlswood Road. Also buried here, there's a couple of other members of the Murray family. Sarah Adelaide, she was a novelist. She took her own life on the 1st of January 1883, aged 23. She was living at either 34 Eglinton Street or 18 Albury Avenue. But also buried here, the last commemoration on the headstone was Rita Allen Murray, and she died in 1938 in Bangor, aged 91. She joined the Institute of Journalists in 1886, and when she died was the oldest member of the Institute of Journalists. According to the Northern Whig of 1938, she had been in failing health for some time. Miss Murray, who was the last surviving member of the family of Mr. Owen Nugent Murray, has not engaged in journalistic work for recent years, but manifested a lively interest in the affairs of the Institute of Journalists. So again, contrasting stories of 4 of the Murray ladies buried here, 2 of whom who died in the same year within the space of a fortnight, both living at 32 Belmont Avenue in East Belfast. So there's only 3 more to go. Next round this direction. I know I mentioned earlier that there's only one headstone here that mentions East Belfast, but that's wrong. There's the second one here. It mentions Sydenham in Belfast here. So this is the Brown plot. And amongst those who are commemorated here is Margaret Ann, beloved wife of Robert of Sydenham in Belfast. He died May 3rd, 1890, aged 75 years. And also Margaret Ann Brown, who died at Larkfield at Sydenham. She was wife of Robert Brown, a shoemaker. And then also near the bottom, Minnie Orr, who died 2nd September 1884, aged only 29 at Sydenham. And she was the wife of a farmer. So that's, again, 3 references on this, 3 East Belfast references on this very fine headstone. You can see with a little bird here as well. So, and then directly opposite is another one with a connection to East Belfast. It's the Templeton Plot here, and amongst those commemorated or buried here but not commemorated in the headstone is a 2-month-old Templeton child. We don't actually know what the name was. It's very hard to read. But died at Short Strand, buried on the 10th of May 1867. And also Kate Templeton, who died aged 25 at Short Strand. So again, they're not commemorated in the headstone. But around the middle there, Walter Berwick Templeton. He died 23rd August 1917, aged 29, at Marchmont at Wandsworth Road. He was a married linen merchant, and the present at his death was a brother, William Hugh Macmillan from Javali in Cypress Park. So again, 2 East Belfast addresses there. So the penultimate grave is over here, and just for Mark, that means one before the last. So this very fine headstone here is the Cumming family, and amongst the burials here is Prudence Cumming. She died at Ballymacarrett, in other words East Belfast, on the 9th of March 1861, aged 53 years. And Samuel is also buried here, but he's not commemorated in the headstone. He was aged only 10 days when he died on the 2nd of October 1892 at 56 Miladies Road. And then, in other words, off near Willowfield Church. And then also then Commemorated here is Joseph Cummings, who died at Ballymacarrett, 27th of September 1869, aged 67. And Sarah Jane Cumming died at 144 Woodstock Road on the 14th of July 1870, aged 18 years. So you could see it's a very fine headstone that implies that the Cumming family had a bit of money anyway. So perhaps this was formerly their coat of arms here at the top of the headstone. So the last one we'll call out is over here, just in the main path. Here, but this is the final resting place of this man, Lieutenant General Sir William Porter MacArthur, and he was born in the Belmont area of East Belfast, so there is an East Belfast connection to him. He was born on the 11th of March 1884. But as a child, he holidayed in the Gaeltacht in Donegal, the family did, and he became really interested in the Irish language, became a fluent speaker. 1906 then, whilst at Queen's College, in other words, became Queen's University, he was a founding member and first president of the college's Gaelic Society. He was wounded in the stomach during the Great War, and then in the Second World War, in the lead up to it, he was the commandant of the Royal Army Medical College from 1935 until 1938. 1938-1941, he served as Lieutenant General and Director General of Army Medical Services. So he was responsible for the supplies, for ordering of the supplies for the Allied war effort, which he struggled with that role, and he resigned in 1941. He was a specialism as a medical doctor was in tropical medicine. He served as the President of the Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene until 1961. He died on the 30th of July 1964 when he was buried here. So again, born in the Belmont area of East Belfast, yeah, became a fluent Irish speaker, and then also responsible for the ordering of supplies in the lead up to the dark days of the Second World War. His wife's a very interesting lady. She was born in Mauritius, Therese MacArthur and Telmy, and she died just short of her 102nd birthday. We think that when she was buried in here after her death on 8th May 1986, this is perhaps the most recent burial in this burial place. So that's thanks very much for coming along to the tour of Balmoral today with a slant on East Belfast, and hope you've enjoyed the tour.